Since Benjamin Franklin flew his kite in a thunderstorm, American ingenuity has lit the way forward. We split the atom, we landed on the moon, we connected the world through the internet. Science didn't just shape our nation, it became our nation. But right now, at this very moment, we're in a new race, not against the clock, against the world. Welcome to AI Ascent with Dr. Jonathan Luckett. I'm your AI-generated host for his week's episode. Today, the Genesis mission, a moonshot launched just this past week when President Trump signed an executive order on November 24, 2025. This could redefine what America is capable of, and the clock is already ticking. Here's what's at stake. The Trump administration is directing the Department of Energy to build something called the American Science and Security Platform, and they're doing it on a timeline that would make most government projects look glacial. Think of it as the Manhattan Project, but instead of one bomb, we're deploying AI across every frontier of human knowledge: energy, defense, medicine, climate. The largest collection of federal scientific data ever assembled. AI agents that don't just compute, they discover. This isn't incremental progress. This is a fundamental restructuring of how breakthroughs happen. So the question isn't whether AI will reshape the 21st century. The question is, who writes the code that shapes it? Are you ready to ascend? Let's go.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we have something really significant to get into. We're not just reading a document, we're analyzing what looks like a strategic blueprint for the future.
It really is. We're diving into an executive order signed on November 24th, 2025, and it formalizes a national priority. That is, well, it's so ambitious that the government itself makes a pretty shocking comparison.
They explicitly compare it to the Manhattan Project. That phrase, comparable in urgency and ambition to the Manhattan Project, I mean, that just jumps off the page.
It absolutely does. And it signals that this isn't just, a funding increase or some new committee. This is the launch of a dedicated, coordinated national effort. They're focusing the immense resources of the federal government on one single objective.
And that objective has a name,
Yep.
the Genesis mission. It's being sold as the key to unleashing a new age of AI-accelerated innovation to solve, the most challenging problems of our time.
But the clock is already ticking, and the timeline they've set out is, well, it's one of the most aggressive I think we've ever seen for a project of this scale.
So to really get a handle on this, we need to unpack three things for you. First, what's the real motivation here? Why this sudden massive mobilization?
Then what is this huge piece of infrastructure they're building? The American Science and Security Platform.
And finally, the big question. Are the deadlines they've set even remotely feasible? Okay, let's get into this blueprint for the future of American science.
So the initial framing in the order is, well, it's classic government speak. Scientific discovery drives American prosperity.
Right, that's the polite justification. But the real core motivation seems a lot more urgent, more strategic.
Exactly. It's the race for AI dominance. The source material spells it out so clearly.
Yeah, it says the U.S. sees itself in a race for global technology dominance in the development of artificial intelligence. Full stop.
So this Genesis mission is a direct national response to that competitive pressure. It's connecting science directly to national security and, of course, to economics.
And the list of intended effects is just a massive wish list. It's dramatically accelerate scientific discovery, sure, but also strengthen national security. Secure energy dominance.
Enhance workforce productivity, and this part is key. Multiply the return on taxpayer investment into R&D. They want to speed up the whole process.
The government is basically saying, look, we have the world's largest collection of scientific data. It's been collected over decades, and it's just sitting there in federal labs and databases.
It's an unmatched national asset.
And the goal of Genesis is to finally integrate all of that data so we can actually use it properly.
Precisely. The foundational idea is to build this one integrated AI platform designed specifically to harness all these federal data sets and use them to train specialized models.
So these are scientific foundation models, right?
Yeah.
Not just a general chatbot you talk to.
Exactly. These aren't general large language models. These are models trained specifically on, physics, chemistry, biology, material science data.
So it's not just running existing AI tools on the science data. It's using all that data to build completely new domain-specific AI brains for science.
You've got it. And the output from these models will be something called AI agents.
AI agents. Okay, what does that mean?
Think of them as like self-driving scientists. So instead of a human researcher spending years testing one hypothesis after another,
Right.
these agents will test new hypotheses, automate research workflows, and basically run the whole research process at computer speed. They could suggest the next 3 experiments to run after analyzing millions of papers, cutting years off the discovery time.
Wow. The implication there is huge. Turning decades of kind of static research investment into these active, self-improving innovation engines.
That's the plan.
Okay, so if the motivation is strategic dominance, the immediate question is, how do you even build something like that? The logistics of it. This is where we get into the American Science and Security Platform, or ASSP.
Yeah, and the sources really lay out how complex this platform needs to be. The person mandated to build and run it is the Secretary of Energy.
And that's significant.
It's highly significant. The Department of Energy is, the spiritual and logistical successor to the Manhattan Project. They control the national labs, the world's most powerful supercomputers. So they get the keys to the infrastructure.
But the strategy needs everyone to play along, right? It's not just the DOE.
No, absolutely not. While the DOE handles the nuts and bolts, the physical and digital infrastructure, the Assistant to the President for Science and Technology, the APST, is in charge of leadership and coordination across all the agencies, making sure everyone's marching in the same direction.
So what is the ASSP? The order lists 6 pillars, but maybe we can group them to make it clearer.
Good idea. Let's think of it as 3 functions: compute, intelligence, and action.
Okay, let's start with compute. That's the raw horsepower.
Right. Pillar 1 is high-performance computing resources. This means connecting all the DOE National Lab supercomputers with secure cloud-based AI computing.
So mixing federal supercomputers with commercial cloud stuff.
Exactly. And just that alone is a huge logistical challenge, especially with all the security mandates they're layering on top.
Okay, so that's compute. What about intelligence? The AI brain part.
That covers the next 3 pillars. You've got the AI modeling frameworks. Those are the agents that automate the research. Then the computational tools like predictive models, and critically, the domain-specific foundation models that are actually trained on all that federal data.
This is where the real knowledge gets created.
This is it. And finally, you have action. This is the data that feeds the whole system and the physical output it directs.
Which brings us to the last 2 pillars.
Right. Pillar 5 is secure access to data sets. And this, frankly, sounds like a legal and technical nightmare. You're talking about federally curated data, proprietary corporate data, open source data, synthetic data.
And it all has to be accessible while respecting classification, privacy, intellectual property. It's like a unified data library for science, but it has to be secured like Fort Knox.
And Pillar 6 closes the loop. It's the experimental and production tools for autonomous and AI-augmented experimentation and manufacturing.
So we're not just talking about the AI spitting out answers on a screen.
No, we're talking about the AI immediately telling a robotic lab what new material to synthesize or what new biological sequence to test. It's a direct link from digital discovery to physical action.
And all of this is wrapped in this absolute mandate for security. It has to meet security requirements for its, quote, national security and competitiveness mission.
Which just makes the speed they're demanding even more daunting.
It does. And that brings us directly to the timelines. If you're going to compare this to a World War II era project, you expect a huge effort, but the speed here it's just exceptional. The deadlines start immediately.
They're clearly trying to avoid the standard bureaucratic crawl. Just consider this. Within 60 days, 2 months, the Secretary of Energy has to identify and submit a list of at least 20 science and technology challenges that the mission can address.
20 specific, high-impact challenges in just 60 days. That tells me they weren't starting from scratch. Those targets must have been researched and prioritized long before this order dropped.
Oh, for sure. This isn't a brainstorming session. It's a mission assignment. And those challenges have to fall into 6 mandated priority areas.
Let's group those for you.
Yeah.
It's basically the foundational inputs for technology, so semiconductors and critical materials.
Right.
Then the next generation of power sources, so nuclear fission and fusion.
Mm-hmm.
And then the future of industry and biology, advanced manufacturing, biotechnology, and quantum information science. It's a list designed to rebuild the American industrial base, but with AI.
Now look at the speed for just getting it running. Within 90 days, the secretary has to identify all available federal computing, storage, and networking resources.
Think about that. Mapping every secure cloud environment, every supercomputer cluster across the entire federal government and its industry partners in 3 months. That is a monumental task.
It's an enormous lift. It speaks to how urgent they feel this is.
Frankly, that 90-day deadline alone makes me skeptical. Anyone who's tried to find a single server in a big government agency knows that can take a year.
And it keeps going. At 120 days, they have to identify the initial data and model assets. That includes creating plans for standardizing everything, tracking where it came from, and how to bring in data from universities and the private sector.
So in 4 months, they're supposed to define the rules for the entire data superhighway.
Then at 240 days, they have to review the physical side of things, all the robotic labs and federal facilities that could be used for AI-directed experiments.
Scouting the territory for their self-driving labs.
And then comes the big one. The final deadline that defines success or failure for this initial push, 270 days.
Less than 9 months from signing the order.
The secretary must seek to demonstrate an initial operating capability of the platform for at least one of those 20 national challenges.
9 months. To unify federal computing, standardize massive disparate data sets, onboard AI models, and show a successful result. Under normal circumstances, that's an impossible goal.
Which just reinforces that historic national effort mandate. It means they have to be empowered to cut through every single layer of typical federal red tape.
And a project with this much speed and complexity, it needs near-perfect orchestration.
It does. And the coordination structure they lay out involves the APST leveraging the National Science and Technology Council and other specialized groups like the Chief Data Officer Council.
The goal here isn't just, making sure people are talking to each other. It's mandated efficiency. The order specifically says they have to avoid duplication of effort and promote interoperability.
It's an attempt to finally create a single, unified AI strategy and end the siloed approach that's so common.
But the federal government doesn't have all the best AI talent or all the necessary data.
Not even close. Which is why the order mandates mechanisms for collaboration with external partners, private companies, universities, anyone with advanced AI or computing power.
And they're trying to lure them in with coordinated funding opportunities or prize competitions.
Right. But that external reliance immediately creates this massive tension. And this is, I think, the vital takeaway for you. The best private sector companies, they want to collaborate, but they're also terrified of losing their intellectual property to a government-run platform.
Especially one that demands so much data sharing.
Exactly. So the order tries to address that fear head-on. It mandates the creation of clear policies for ownership, for licensing, for trade secret protections, for everything developed under the mission.
They're trying to set up the IP framework before the data starts flowing.
That's the carrot. The stick, or maybe the necessary shield, is the strict security mandate. All non-federal collaborators have to comply with uniform and stringent data access and management processes and cybersecurity standards.
And that's where speed meets bureaucracy.
It is. And the most telling requirement, the one that really highlights this tension, is the need for procedures requiring the highest standards of vetting and authorization of users and collaborators.
So if you're an academic researcher or a company partner, getting access to the ASSP is not going to be simple or immediate.
No. That vetting requirement could be the single biggest thing that slows down the speed they so desperately need.
We should also just quickly note the focus on the human side of this. The mission requires creating competitive fellowships, internships, apprenticeships to build the next generation of AI-savvy scientists.
Right. They're trying to solve today's problem with technology and build tomorrow's workforce at the same time, often by placing them directly in the DOE national labs.
So let's pull all this together. What does this all mean?
Well, the Genesis mission is, at its core, this comprehensive federally driven push to rapidly integrate the world's largest collection of public data and computing resources into a single, secure, self-driving AI platform.
All backed by these insane 9-month operational deadlines and focused on 6 economic and security domains.
And this isn't just, some theoretical white paper. The order requires an annual report within a year. It has to detail operational status, integration progress, research outcomes like actual publications and prototypes, and the scope of their partnerships.
So this is a massive quantifiable investment. We're going to be able to track its progress with hard metrics.
The comparison to the Manhattan Project It suggests centralized control, secrecy, unlimited resources for one single existential goal.
But success in the modern AI race requires the opposite, right? It needs distributed innovation, open data standards, and critical private sector IP.
Exactly. And the source material demands this unprecedented coordination of sensitive federal data, industrial IP, and academic research, all while maintaining these highest standards of vetting.
So the fundamental question this whole blueprint raises for you is this: can the necessity for extreme speed, that 270-day operational deadline, driven by the global AI race, can it truly coexist successfully with the absolute mandate for strict, uniform security and IP controls across such a massive, interconnected national platform? That tension between speed and control, that is what will define the success or failure of the Genesis mission.
So let's be clear about what we've just uncovered. This isn't a white paper gathering dust in a filing cabinet. The Genesis mission is a live wire, a blueprint already in motion to revolutionize how we approach biotechnology, nuclear energy, quantum computing, and semiconductors, the fields that will define power in the 21st century. This is being orchestrated at the highest levels: the Secretary of Energy running point, the President's science advisor coordinating across agencies. DOE supercomputers that once simulated nuclear weapons are now training AI models. Federal data sets that were siloed for decades are being unified. Universities, national labs, and vetted private companies are being woven into a single network, all under new cybersecurity protocols designed for an era where data is the weapon. The goal? To squeeze decades of discovery into years, to turn every taxpayer dollar invested in research into exponential returns, to make sure that when the history of this century is written, it's written in American English. And here's the thing, we'll know if it's working. The Secretary of Energy is required to report progress annually, measurable advances, operational milestones, the receipts. This isn't propaganda, it's accountability at scale. The race is on, the platform is being built, and the question that opened this episode still stands. Who writes the code that shapes the future? Right now, America is placing its bet. Thank you for joining us on AI Ascent with Dr. Jonathan Luckett. We'll be tracking the Genesis mission as it unfolds, because this story is just beginning. Until next time, keep ascending.